Hello and welcome to our last video lecture for human relations. This is chapters 15 and 16 in your human relations textbook. So this chapter is about developing good work habits. So work habits are a person's characteristic approach to work, including things such as organization, priority setting, handling of paperwork, and emails. And then productivity is the amount of quality work accomplished in relation to the resources consumed. So ideally, we would like to have good work habits and we would like to be productive in our jobs. Procrastination is definitely a thing that can damage our productivity. Procrastination is delaying a task for an invalid reason and is a major productivity drain. So this is a work habit problem. We might procrastinate for a lot of reasons. One might be because the task is just plain unpleasant, or it's overwhelming and we don't know how to tackle it. It could be a fear of consequences, either getting some bad news or a bad review from doing the task. Some people have a bit of a, I can't think of the word, but like a fear of success where like they kind of, limit themselves in what they achieve. And sometimes people just don't want to tackle the task because there's a lack of a meaningful reward for completing it. Procrastination could be about rebelling against control. I'll do it when I feel like doing it kind of thing. Some people enjoy the rush of leaving things till the last minute. And some people suffer from perfectionism. They have a hard time getting started because they just know that it's going to take too much effort to try to get it completed because of that perfectionism. FYI, I personally cannot stand when people answer perfectionism or perfectionist as their fault in a job interview. So I think lots of people are told that that if someone asks you what's your worst quality or tell us about a fault in a job interview, and people say, oh, I'm kind of a perfectionist, lots of people think that that's a good answer to say because it'll make people want to hire them because they do perfect work. But perfectionism is a hindrance to good work, actually. So I don't think that that is a good answer. So to reduce procrastination, start by being aware that you have a problem. And if you don't recognize the problem, you aren't looking to fix it. You could calculate the cost of your procrastination. You can counterattack. So just aim to get that job done. You can jumpstart yourself. So find a leading task. You could peck away at an overwhelming task. I think this one's really helpful. If you have a really big task looming in front of you, just do the next thing. Just do one thing, and it kind of gets that ball rolling. If you break a large task into smaller tasks, you don't feel so overwhelmed to tackle it. And motivate yourself with rewards and punishments. That's using behavior modification to change that procrastination behavior. Another one that I like to do, hold on, I should see if it goes on to here. No, so one that I like to do if I have things that I really, really, really don't want to do. Like sometimes, it's like the end of the night and my kitchen's just a disaster and I'm like, I'm not tackling this. Just set a timer for 10 minutes and do what you can for 10 minutes. And typically at the end of that 10 minutes, I'm either done because it wasn't all that big a task that I keep putting off, or I'm on a roll and I'm like, well, I may as well finish, right? So sometimes setting that little timer, if it's like a task you don't want to do. I know, like, if you're not a big person for like liking to make phone calls or something, but you've got phone calls to make at the office, just be like, hey, I'm going to do these for a half an hour and then I can take a break and do something else and come back to them. So that's kind of a way of breaking a bigger task into smaller tasks. Oops. So the WIFO principle is about doing the worst part of the task first to get it out of the way. So if there's, you have a bunch of things on your list, you keep putting off this one because it's like the thing you hate doing. Like, again, just examples of my house. I can't stand cleaning the bathroom. It's my least favorite thing to do. I am so productive on days where I'm like, I need to clean the bathroom, because I will procrastinate cleaning the bathroom by cleaning literally anything else in the house. So if I just got that thing out of the way first, I wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. Sometimes making a commitment to other people will help you keep it moving, right? Because you have that accountability. And then expressing a more positive attitude about your intentions. So if you look at it as like, instead of taking the approach of, ugh, I have to do this task I hate doing, I have to call this client I think is annoying, maybe reframe it in your brain as, wow, I get to call this person. Thank goodness that I have a job that's paying me well and lets me do things that I love, even when I don't love the tasks. Like, thank goodness I get to do this. So to reduce procrastination, motivate yourself with rewards and punishments. We just went over these. Follow the YFO principle. So get the unpleasant tasks done first, and then make a commitment to other people. We talked about those already. So developing good attitudes and values. Developing work habits and time management practices is often a matter of having proper attitudes towards work or time. So it is a good idea to have a more positive attitude about your approach to work. So if you have, you know, companies will have like their mission statement and, or maybe like company goals. It's a good idea to have a mission statement for yourself. So my mission statement going into work is, well, when I worked in a vet clinic, is to like advocate for the animals. I'm there to care for the animals and to make sure that they're getting the best treatments, and that I'm there to speak for them since they can't speak. So that's my mission statement, is to be an advocate for the animals. My goals would be all animal related things, right? My goals is to work safely. My goals are to like be efficient at my job. My goal is to make sure that I'm working at like the best standards that I know how to. So like, don't cut corners, that kind of thing. And then having a strong work ethic, which we've talked about in previous lectures. A strong work ethic involves like, you know, getting to work on time, developing those competencies, etc. Make sure that you value good attendance and punctuality. Being at work and being at work on time is, it's good for you because you'll be developing better work habits, and it's good for the business overall because you are a good employee then. So good employees tend to get better raises, tend to get, you know, promotions, things like that. And then value your time. I think time is a really finite resource, which we don't necessarily realize because, I mean, there always seems to be more of it where that came from. But I think it is important to value the things that we do. We don't want to waste our time doing crap we don't like, right? So if we really value our time and do our best work when we're working, that helps us to have that value. We should value neatness, orderliness, and speed. I think super important in the vet clinic. I've said it before. Actually, sorry, I think I said it in my other class. We'll say it next week, but cleanliness is next to godliness when it comes to the vet clinic. We need to keep things clean just from like a disease control perspective, never mind like a customer service perspective, right? If you walk into a vet clinic and it's filthy and it smells like poop, you're gonna be put off and you're not gonna come back. I appreciate people that work cleanly while they're doing their tasks and clean up their messes as they go. And we do want to work on speed because the vet clinic can often get really busy. So we want to make sure that we're working efficiently. So I'm sure you've heard the term before, work smarter, not harder. So it's always a good idea to look at how you do things and see if there's a better way, if there's a way to be more efficient. Even jobs that you've been doing for years and years, sometimes you take a close look and you're like, wait, why do I do it this way? And sometimes it's like, well, that's just the way whoever always did it, you know, that's how they taught me and I just kept running with it. Sometimes you can find ways to be more efficient. So become self-employed psychologically, even if you're working for someone else. If you have that attitude of self-employment, people that are self-employed tend to feel like they have a lot more riding on their job, right? Because they have to do well or their business is failing. So if you look at your job that way, you will tend to perform better because you feel like there's more on the line. And then make sure, especially in the vet clinic, we've talked about mental health stuff already, and I'll continue to talk about it throughout this course, but appreciate the importance of rest and relaxation. We do not want to be workaholics. Workaholics are not sustainable employees. We need to be able to take those breaks and take care of ourselves so we can continue to take care of our clients and their pets. So neglecting the normal need for rest and relaxation can lead to an addiction to work in which not working is an uncomfortable experience, and that just results in burnout. We see compassion fatigue in this industry. We don't want those things. People that burn out and suffer from compassion fatigue leave the business. And then what? We don't have you there with your years of experience and your awesome attitude, and that's a loss for our industry. So make sure you are taking your breaks and taking care of yourself. So time management is super important in the vet clinic as well. I've talked to you guys before about the idea of like if the vet clinic was a play at the theater. So, you know, the doctors are like the star of the show, the vet techs are like the backstage managers, and the VOAs, you guys are like the director of the entire show. So it's really important that you guys have good time management techniques so that you can stay on top of that whole hospital, because it's kind of your job, your task to make sure things are running on time. So, we want to make sure that we're cleaning up as we go and staying organized. So having a tidy desk makes it easier to find the things that you need, and you are not, scrambling around looking for that file that you needed. You're not wasting your time with that kind of stuff. You know where the things are that you need. You can grab the stuff that you need for your task because it's right there and handy. So make sure that if you're not an organized person, start to learn some organizing techniques so that you can keep yourself on track. Planning your activities will be helpful as well. Making a to-do list is awesome because you can kind of prioritize the stuff that's really important. So to make a good to-do list, just write down everything you need to do in a day, and then prioritize the most important things to get those done first, and then you can move on to less important things as those more important things are finished. Remember too that when you're making that to-do list, you might not include on there help clients as they come in or call, but that's always our number one priority, is to help those clients when they enter the clinic or when they phone call the clinic. So planning is the primary principle of effective time management. So making those to-do lists and then figuring out what needs to be accomplished today. And then from there, you can figure out the actions needed to make it happen. So definitely planning is going to be a good skill to help your time management. So while you're planning your activities, some questions to ask yourself is, where do you put your to-do lists? Some people like to have like a little notebook that they keep track of their things that they need to do. I like just grabbing a scrap piece of paper, making my list on there, and going from that. How do you set priorities? That's a great question in the vet clinic. So I think we can triage our tasks kind of the same way that we can triage animals in the hospital that need to be seen because they're sick. So we have things that are like emergent. It needs to be done this second. Those kind of things are like clients coming in to purchase food, the phone ringing. Those things need to be done immediately. Then we have our things where, it's urgent. So it needs to be done today. So maybe that's like getting the lab samples sent out via courier. That needs to be done today by a certain time. Getting our files ready for the afternoon appointments. Things that have kind of like a time schedule that needs to happen today. Then we have things that can wait till tomorrow. So maybe you had a phone call for someone that needs a prescription refill and they're going to pick it up, in 2 days. you can leave that for later to fill that prescription. That doesn't need to be done right this second. You would prioritize your other tasks over that one. When you're done your other tasks and you don't have any of those emergent ones, like people coming in for purchases or appointments, then you can go ahead and do those kind of, level C appointments. Tasks. And then lastly, we have things that are like the at your convenience tasks. So at your convenience tasks are things like attending to like a deep cleaning schedule, reorganizing something, cleaning out your desk drawers. Those are kind of the things that maybe they need to be done, but it doesn't have to be done right this minute, and it can wait until later. So that's how I like to prioritize my things, is just the same way I triage. Things that need to be seen now, things that need to be done today, things that can wait till tomorrow, things that can wait until I get a chance to do them, okay? And then how do you schedule those things and follow through? Hang on to your to-do lists and don't get rid of them until they're completely checked off. I like to continue to build my to-do lists. So as I check off those urgent things and move on to my next things, I like to keep my to-do lists around or rewrite them to have that list of stuff that needs to be done when I get the chance. So getting off to a good start is important for time management. Most people have their peak energy in the morning. Figure out when your peak time is, and then really take advantage of that time. Maybe right after your lunch, you're just a little busy bee. Go ahead and get those tasks done in that time that you're maybe resistant about doing. When you have the time and the energy, get the things done that you would usually kind of put off a little bit. I personally am not a peak energy in the morning kind of person. I feel like I'm dragging my butt to at least 10. So I personally would schedule those kind of tasks for later in the day when I have more energy. Make good use of office technology. Set reminders in your schedule book. So you have a computer practice management system. You can put reminders in there that remind you to do tasks that are every so often tasks. Or if there's something that you absolutely have to do first thing tomorrow, put the reminder in right at the beginning of the day. I like to schedule things that are monthly tasks, like machine maintenance or appointments I have to schedule for the hospital. I like to put reminders into that software, because then I don't have to formally remember it. It just shows up on the schedule. Laura, order more toner, right? So I can do those kind of things on my schedule. So use that technology. You have it, use it. Concentrate on one key task at a time. So if you're trying to multitask, you are going to be less efficient. And that's because every time you start or stop a task, your brain needs time to reorganize and get set up for doing the task at hand. So when you're interrupted and you're jumping around from one thing to another, you never really get into the flow, right? Once you have that good flow going on, you can bang out a lot of stuff in an efficient way. But when you're jumping around, it takes a minute to get reorganized. So think about it home right now when you're reading a textbook or trying to work on a practice assignment or something. You're working, you're in the zone, and maybe you get a text message, you interrupt, you look at it, you read it, haha, that's funny, you type your reply, you put down your phone, you go back, you have to be okay, so where was I? Oh, yes, okay, so I'm on this paragraph, and then you start reading again. Maybe you end up backing up and reading a little bit more, right? So that's not an efficient way to work. If you kind of put away the distractions and focus on what you're doing, even just 15 minutes at a time, take a little break, 15 minutes at a time, take a little break, you're going to be more efficient than if you allow those interruptions as they come up, okay? Obviously, client care is our number one. So answering the phone, helping people that come in, you're going to be interrupted by those kind of things. But if you're able to, as best you can, to get into the flow, you're going to work better that way. You need to streamline your work and emphasize important tasks, and get rid of things that are kind of not super important at the moment. So those things get bumped to that D list, right? That whenever you have the time. So things like re-engineering or redesigning something, or like, tidying up your desk or simplifying your filing system. Those things are for times when you have nothing else going on. Make sure you're doing the important things first. As much as I love doing, I call them the kind of bullshit tasks when I'm procrastinating doing something I don't want to do, it's not really a smart method to get your jobs done at a proper time. So working at a steady pace, don't be a spurt houseworker. So if you can keep your pace fairly steady throughout the day, that's better for you. It's better for you mentally because you don't have these little jags where you're like trying to run around like a maniac and then you're exhausted, right? So if you can just kind of slow and steady wins the race. Create some quiet, uninterrupted time. Absolutely. If you have a task that needs to be done, let's say you're in charge of payroll or something, you need to get that done on a timeline. Ask other people to fill in on doing the phones and helping clients, and find a quiet place to get that task done. I used to be responsible for inventory control, which meant that I was doing orders. So those orders need to be completed on a timeline. Whenever I had to get an order done, I'd be like, hey, I need like 15 minutes. Everyone leave me alone. I just need to get this task done. So if you can be interrupted for that time and let other people take over those urgent tasks as they come in, you'll be able to get your work done in a timely manner. Make use of bits of time and use multitasking for routine tasks. If you're like, I don't know, I can't even think of examples of routine tasks in the vet clinic that you could multitask. Well, actually, no, that's not true. So maybe you're like tidying up surgery or cleaning up after surgery is done. You can multitask because there's things that need to sit. So you need to soak the instruments. So get those things soaking right away. Clean the counters and the tables. Go back, finish cleaning the instruments. Go back into the surgery room and rinse or wash the floor. That kind of thing. So you can multitask for things like that. And then stay in control of paperwork, in-basket, email, etc. Don't let those kind of things build up too much. So overcoming time wasters. What are things that are time wastes in your day? So daydreaming, chit-chatting, going on Facebook, unless your job is social media managing. So those kind of things are real time wasters. If you're not sure, if you're like, I don't understand, I work so hard all day long and I'm not getting anything done, it might be a good idea to complete a time log. So a time log is a good way to evaluate how you use your time all day long. So first of all, let's address the elephant in the room that creating a time log is a bit of a time leak. But creating a time log, while it might eat up time in your day that when you're completing it, it will give you valuable information in terms of what you waste your time with. So time logs will help you identify time leaks, which are anything you're doing or not doing that allows your time to get away from you. So while you're working, you're chatting with a friend at the desk beside you. You guys say something about, maybe you're, arguing about the origin of beagles or something. And so you're like, hey, I'm just going to Google it real quick. How much time is that real quick? Maybe you end up spending 10 minutes going down some beagle rabbit hole and learning more about that breed. Is that really a good use of your time? Maybe not, right? So those kind of things will help you to identify where you're losing time in your day. So we want to avoid unproductive use of computers. So just like computer surfing is not going to serve your day. So browsing websites with no work goal in mind, that's not really work time. That's not a work time task. And then keep track of important names, places, and things. We talk, actually, I'm not sure if we do talk about it in your course, but we talk about job aids as being something that's useful and helpful for kind of like cheating on the job, right? So one job aid that I like to have is a price list right by the phone. so that if someone calls and says, hey, how much is a cat spay? I don't have to sit there and make an estimate every single time. I can grab my sheet and say $324. So those are like a good job aid. Maybe you can never remember the price of IV fluids and blood work. Have those little notes just sitting right there on a sticky note beside your computer. Those things will help you keep track of things that you might forget and would need to take the time to look them up. One thing, I just want to come back to that for the keeping track of important things. One thing I like to suggest to newly graduating VOAs is to have a little notebook that you keep in your pocket. You can get them at like the Dollarama, and they're like come in like 4 to a pack for like $1. They're just nice little notebooks. You can keep notes in there about important things. So maybe you have notes about like things you need to discuss at a discharge. You have notes about going over estimates. You have notes about, vaccination protocols. And if ever you're unsure about something, you have a little reference book right in your pocket. That's super handy to have. I also like to recommend keeping always a pen on you, and I like to keep a scrap piece of paper or two in my pocket, so that if I answer a phone call and someone asks me to do something on the phone, they ask me to put some food aside or something like that, and I'm not necessarily doing it right that second, I can make a note on the piece of paper and then go do whatever I was doing that was more urgent and then return to that task. I personally don't have a great short-term memory. I have a hard time remembering little things like that. It's like in one ear, out the other. So that's why I keep that little list. It's a way to help me to remember the things that I need to do. So set a time limit for certain tasks and projects. If you're a person that gets really lost in creating a new document because you want to make it really perfect or something like that, set yourself a time limit. You can work on this for half an hour and then you need to stop and do something else. Maybe like if you're like the social media person, it's easy to get lost in social media. I'm sure you guys know this because pretty sure all of you said you have some form of social media. So you know that that like checking comments and stuff like that can take a really long time. So setting time limits for those kind of tasks will help you to avoid time wasting. If you can schedule similar tasks together, that is a helpful way to be more efficient, because you can kind of stay in that zone, right? So if there's things that you do that are similar tasks, I would cluster those together. And then if you can bounce quickly from task to task, sure, right. But like take a break when you can, right? The vet clinic gets really busy sometimes. It is important. I mean, I know whatever, capitalist society, blah, 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 we all have to grind, but I think it is important to take care of ourselves. It's okay when you finish a task to stand up, stretch, get a drink of water, come back to your desk. So yes, work efficiently and bounce around quickly when you need to, but if you do have that moment to take the little break, do so. Okay, so that covers our chapter 15, and chapter 16 is a nice brief one. So chapter 16 is about getting ahead in your career. So career advancement, career portability is the ability to move from one employer to another when required. If you work for a veterinarian that owns multiple hospitals, this is a good thing to be able to do. Let them know if you're willing to work at different hospitals and like fill in when needed. That shows initiative, and it shows that you care about their business, and it gets you a little bit extra money too, which isn't a bad thing. Okay, so to understand career building, we're going to look at career pathing, managing and taking control of your own behavior to advance and retain a good job, and exerting control over your environment to improve success. So career advancement has changed, that should say changed, to accommodate organization structure changes. So, when jobs open up, that kind of thing, you may have opportunities for advancement. Career success, when organizational rewards and personal satisfaction are achieved. So basically, when you're in the position you want to be in and you like what you're doing. The key components of career pathing and advancement is an emphasis on horizontal growth, advancement based on learning and acquiring new skills and knowledge. So I would like to take this time to remind you that as veterinary professionals, part of our code of ethics is a commitment to lifelong learning. We always want to be advancing our skills and getting better at what we do. Fortunately, we have lots of opportunities. There are tons of continuing education events that happen locally and around the world. There are opportunities for veterinarians and technologists and VOAs and practice managers. Ask about those things. If there's an area that you're really interested in or that you'd like further knowledge in, tell your employer, because most employers do have a budget for continuing education and they can often pay for those things for you. And that's really nice to have. So I would really look at those things that you want to learn more about and try to find areas or conferences or things like that that really tailor to those needs. So there's more of an emphasis on temporary leadership assignments in job environments these days. I think is what it is. Self-fulfillment, we want to advance in your career to find work that's self-fulfilling. You want to be doing something that you do enjoy, at least to some degree. We want to have that commitment to lifelong learning. We recently had like a staff meeting, and they were saying that like in the past, the structure of most people's lives was they spent time training for the job that they have, and then they worked the job they have till they retired. But now there's a really different model where people are dipping back and forth into employment and learning. And being able to learn new things and build new skills is only beneficial for your job. So be aware of that. You have your career age versus your chronological age. You might be younger or older getting into the career. That's just something to be aware of. I think sometimes being in vet medicine can be demanding physically. So sometimes being, older, you're like, weaker or less fit, etc. So sometimes those things might kind of show in your tasks, right? So it's a good idea to make sure you're kind of keeping up with fitness and things like that, so that your career age can, kind of match where you're at. And then you'll be promoted for your learn how as opposed to your know how. And honestly, I think this is really important in hiring as well. Your learn how is how you're able to learn new skills versus your know how, which is your present skills. So I always like to look for people that I think have those good soft skills. Things like they're personable, they're friendly, they're fast learners, they're self-starters, they take initiative. Those are things I want to hire someone for. Being able to run a urinalysis or, type quickly. Those are fine skills to have, certainly. But I can also train those things in you. If you are miserable and don't show up for work on time, I can't train that into you. So I like to look for that learn how versus the know how. Of course, you want to take control of yourself. So develop those interpersonal skills, things that we've talked about in this course. Your emotional intelligence, your teamwork abilities, those are things that are important to develop. And then also look at developing your expertise in the field as well. So knowing the terminology for the field that you're in, so veterinary medicine, knowing how to do certain tasks associated with the job, etc. And then having a passion contributes to problem solving, which is a requirement if you're wishing to advance. Good problem solving skills are an excellent asset in an employee. And having a passion for the field you're in, being proud of the job you do, helps you to do the best job possible, okay? I love vet medicine. If you can't tell, I really love talking about it. I hope that shines through in my voice. and my attitudes when I teach this class, because I really genuinely love it. And that makes me want to do the best job I possibly can when I'm at work, because I really want to be the best in the field, right? I want to do really well and really celebrate our field of work. So developing a personal code of ethics, we talked about having like your mission statement. And then going beyond the job description. So that's part of being that organizational citizen, right? Doing a little bit more than is needed. Not just meeting the bare minimum, but helping someone out when you can, etc. Do more than what's expected. When you're performing well on assignments or duties, it contributes to success syndrome, right? We get a little taste of success and we like it. We want more of it. Being a proactive personality is amazing in the vet clinic. I love people that can see a job that needs doing and go ahead and do it. You see that something's messy, clean it up. You see a client's waiting, help them. You see a phone line on hold, pick it up and help them. You see a need or an upcoming need and you meet that. That is beautiful. I love that in a vet clinic. So to do that, capitalize on opportunities. When things come up to do them, do them. Be unconstrained by forces and situations and bring about changes. Don't feel like you can't take an action on something just because of whatever situation is in there. Work for the change. Show initiative and bring about meaningful changes. Initiative is very important too. Again, if you see something that needs doing, do it. Develop social networks. This is something I'm assuming you guys don't have in Calgary. We don't have in Winnipeg either. And I think it would be a nice thing to do. I tell all my students this. Every time I have a fresh batch of students, I always suggest it to them that someone should start a VOA association. So we have like the Veterinary Medicine or Medical Association. We have the Veterinary Technologists Association. But you don't have a VOA association. And I think that would be a good thing, because then you would be able to have that like kind of accountability to each other. You can, organize like continuing education things. And I just think it would be a good way to like kind of socially network too. So I just throw it out there as an idea. If you don't have one, which I don't think you do, I don't know, maybe someone wants to start one. And then be enterprising, right? Be looking for those opportunities and take advantage of them. So creating good first impressions, having a favorable appearance, right? So dress appropriate to the job, wear your scrubs, keep them neat and clean. Don't wear torn or stained or bleached scrubs to work. That looks yucky. And watch your body language as well, right? We've talked about open and closed body language, that 90% of communication is via body language versus what you're actually saying. So watch those things while you're talking. Watch your eyebrows. The eyebrows don't lie. They get higher and higher the more annoyed you are, so watch those. Document your accomplishments and advertise that tactfully, right? So I don't think it's a bad thing to say to your boss, hey, we saw 500 different clients today and served every one of them with a smile. That's an amazing accomplishment, right? I don't think it hurts to talk about those good things. Share them in your meetings. Like, I love a team meeting if everyone goes around and shares something that they're proud of they accomplished that week. That's a great way to build that teamwork, that camaraderie, and to see the things that other people are doing that you might not notice. I think we're all kind of guilty of assuming that the work that we do is more important than the work other people do. But if you see, someone's like, oh, I'm actually really proud of, I did something, every single day this week, first thing in the morning I did whatever. And you're like, oh, actually that really helped me out. You can be grateful for those team members instead of resenting them, right? And then always, always, always continue to learn and focus on self-development. Career-long, lifelong learning is absolutely important, especially in vet medicine. Observe proper etiquette. So, don't be rude to people, right? Follow your veterinary code of ethics in terms of like how we address people professionally. So you should just say, Dr. Jones as opposed to like Betty. especially when you're in front of a client. What are some other etiquette things? We wouldn't badmouth anyone in our field, whether it's our coworker or another vet clinic or vet practice or doctor. It says the basic rule is to make other people feel comfortable in your presence, to be considerate and not to embarrass anyone. Absolutely. You can take sensible risks as appropriate. Manage adversity and build personal resilience. We've talked about these in other parts of this course. And then develop your own brand. You're the only you, right? You're the best you can be. So develop that and be proud of who you are. One thing that I feel like I've learned as I've gotten older, like when I interviewed for this job, people were asking me like, oh, are you nervous? I was like, not really, honestly, because if I'm not the right fit for this job, I shouldn't get this job and I don't want this job. I know who I am, I know what I know, and I think I can do a good job at this. But if whoever is interviewing me doesn't agree, absolutely they shouldn't give me this job. So I've kind of learned, like, sometimes you might have like a vested interest in something, but like ultimately you are who you are, and you know your own skills, right? And you should do the things that you are good at doing and celebrate those things. Okay, so you can exert control over the outside world by developing a flexible career path. And that's something that's kind of really cool about vet medicine, is that there are a fair number of career paths that you can follow. So as a VOA, you can certainly work in a vet clinic. You can work front desk as a receptionist in the vet clinic. You can work in the treatment area, assisting the vets and the technologists. You can do a bit of both. You can work for an animal shelter. So either as like an animal protection officer, where you're going out on calls about like animal abuse situations or stray animals. You can work in the shelter as like an adoptions counselor or an animal care technician, where you're taking care of the animals in the shelter. There's so many jobs in shelters that a VOA can really excel at. You could work in like pet store situations. Although honestly, I feel like you guys are kind of overqualified for that. You can work for pet insurance. You could be brand reps for different veterinary brands. Like there's so many possible job venues. That's really amazing. And within the vet clinic too, you can always strive to be like an office manager, or maybe like a social media specialist in a vet hospital. There's a lot of really cool things that you can do, which is amazing. I think there's a lot of amazing things about this field. So on your flexible career path, have an idea about some goals that you'd like to achieve and work towards them, right? Even if you don't have like a really specific plan in place, having an idea or a dream of where you'd like to go helps you to identify opportunities as they come up. Strive for broad experience. So that's that cross-training. Why is that important? The more you know, the more valuable you are. Experience across the board in the hospital is always going to be really helpful. Have goals, and if possible, have an action plan to reach them, but be flexible about it. Having goals and action plans helps you recognize opportunities when they do come up, and then you can jump at them. Network, so the more people you can talk to, the better in the field. You go to continuing education events, chat with other people outside of your hospital, get to know other people. Maybe you have like friends from school or something that you can network with, and maybe they'll be able to tip you off when there's like a really good job opportunity opening up. Find a mentor. Find a more experienced VOA, a technologist, a veterinarian that is willing to give you positive and critical feedback to improve your job life. A mentor can be really helpful to run by. Maybe you have like an ethical question or an on-the-job issue that you'd like some help with or some outside insight on. A mentor can be really helpful for that. I personally really like taking on, students or people new to the business as a mentor. I think it's really rewarding for me. It helps keep me impassioned about the field, And it just helps me, I feel like, give back to my community. So I encourage you, when you feel like you're in a position where you are more comfortable in the field, to become a mentor as well, because you can really, really help people, and that's an amazing thing. And then lastly, always strive for that balance in your life. Work is great. I love vet medicine and I love my job and I love teaching vet medicine. It's amazing. But work isn't my life, right? My life is happening all throughout, right? So, focus on your family, focus on your friends, focus on your hobbies too. Don't make work your entire life. Okay, so that is everything for the human relations course. Big sigh of relief, I'm sure, right? So, make sure you do complete your journal entries. Have those submitted to me before the due date. And take a deep breath and enjoy your long weekend, because you did it. You got through this 2-week-long soft skills course. All right, we will see you guys in our next course. If you do have questions about any of this career advancement stuff, this mentorship stuff, any of that, make sure you do ask. Again, I'm available in the chat, the virtual classroom, or by email. Okay, thanks for listening.